G'day. It's time to down your unders. Review and dissection of content from some of the sharpest minds in the game. Hosted by Adam Camilleri. Art of War. Down Under.
G'day everybody and welcome to the 16th, that's right, number 16th stats episode that I have done on this show, updating our live and living faction ladder. It's been just under 3 months since our last one, but the game has changed freaking dramatically since then. Unfortunately, our usual lad of the day, Jeremy Atkinson, is unable to join us. He is unwell, but he was set to be on this show in addition to this gentleman. So it's not like I went and pulled in a ringer when I couldn't get Jeremy. I was always going to have this lovely gent on. Hello, Nathan Henning, Mr. Stats Pappy. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, Adam. I am excited to talk about our new stats for our new chapter approved for our new missions and overlords, It'll be fun.
Yeah, exactly right. Now, this is kind of going to be capturing, I'm going. So for anybody who doesn't know, I'm going away to Europe for the WTC, and also the only holiday I'm getting this year as well. I'm going to be going away for almost 5 weeks, so I'm going to be getting a bunch of WTC-esque content in the pipe. That being, I've got interviews with Team New Zealand and Team Australia locked up. I'm also might be hitting up Team France as well, because I always like to get the reigning defending champ on. In addition, I'll be doing a WTC stats episode also, and who knows if G-Dub decides to windmill slam some new content in there, I'll be reviewing that too. But expect most of my content for the coming month and a half to be canned content. So it might not always be the most, right on the pulse, but I'm on holiday. Stuff you. I deserve it. At least I try and tell myself I do. My imposter syndrome is thick. But Nathan, my lovely boy, tell us about StatCheck.
Oh, man. StatCheck has been going on for so long now. It feels like forever. Like we've just always been doing it at this point. Like it's always been part and parcel of my 40K life. But we do the metadata dashboard, which we're now getting back up and running to a regular update schedule after some kerfuffles with getting our stats together, which you can check out at www.stat-check.com/themeta. And then we record and do episodes every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, where you can listen to a rotating cast of the four of us. Usually, at least Ines, Anthony, Jeremy, and myself will chat about the stats of the week and kind of figure out kind of what's going on in the meta. And just kind of, talk a load of shit about a lot of things, because that's what we like to do. Shit talking is a tried and true, I think, hobby within a hobby for
It's
podcasts.
necessary. It maintains the sanity, I believe. It's the balance. It's on the other side of the scales to the crunchy numbers and all these other things. But my man, I'm going to lay down for you where we were when we last head off the last faction tier list. The game looked so freaking different. So this was the Mordaka meta, if people remember. So in F tier we had Imperial Agents and Drakari. We had in D tier, we had Thousand Suns, Adeptus Mechanicus, Death Guard, Tau, and Blood Angels, somehow. Then in C tier, we had Deathwatch, Votan, Tyranids, Adeptus Astartes, and Chaos Space Marines. B tier was Grey Knights, World Eaters, Adeptus Sororitas, Chaos Knights, Dark Angels, Custodes, and Gene Stealer Cults. And someone just had a calamity. In A tier, we had Imperial Knights, Astra Militarum, Necrons, Demons, Aeldari, and Space Wolves. And the only S tier in the game was Orcs. Now, that feels like forever ago, man. It was like 2.5 months, but it feels like freaking forever ago. Because since then, we have had new mission updates. We've had balanced data slates. We have had MFMs, and we've had 4 codexes? 5 codexes.
Because it feels like go.
You go. There you go.
No, I was going to say it is a completely different game now. I mean, we have a completely new mission pack, right? And just listening to you list off the factions and where they're at, and then I'm looking at kind of the sorting for the stats that I've got right now. The game is in a completely different state, and some things are in completely opposite places of where they were originally from last quarter.
So just to encapsulate, like I said, balance. We've had a balanced data slate. We've had an MFM. We've had a new chapter approved. Then we've had I think Empress Children FOMO box was out by the time I did this last time, but the full release wasn't out, so we didn't put them on the tier list. So we've had All 4 cult legions have had their books. That's Emperor's Children, World Eaters, Death Guard, and T-Suns, plus Knights. Chaos Knights have got their book, and Imperial Knights have been revamped. So essentially, there's like 6 brand new factors in addition to a rebalancing of everything else. And so this next tier list that we do might have nothing in common with the previous one.
I know, right?
In fact, we're gonna give an award. So people who do not know, when we get to the end, we give awards to certain factions, like the one that fell the most or the one that rose the most in the tier list. But we're gonna give an award to the faction that didn't freaking change at all between last one and this one. If they stayed exactly the same, you're an absolute winner.
I think we're gonna have a good time with this. I'm excited for these awards because last time I was on, we didn't have them, so I'm really excited to see who gets them this time.
It's been an innovation that I really. It came from just riffing on the dumbness of that was doing this ladder sometimes with some of the wonky, the fact that Space Marines last time was in C tier, despite the fact that the number 1, number 5, number 8, number 9 players in the world in the ITC were all using like either Stormlance or Gladius, like Ultramarines to win super majors, and they were still in C tier. So they were like, well, okay, I guess. So that kind of stuff, you want to throw out some riff and throw out some awards. So we're going to do that. But I'm already going to put this one in because I think at the bottom of F tier, Imperial Agents
is just an F tier. There's nothing to speak of there. The win rate for that faction is 20%, just because all the stats that I'm going to talk about today are from just after the mission pack release, because I don't think it makes any sense to talk about any stats other than those at this point.
Yeah, I agree.
They have a 20% win rate. They don't have any top 4s or event wins or top 10s. They've got no overrep to speak of. I understand that Imperial Agents players are very passionate. We get comments every time we talk about them badly on the show, but they aren't doing anything, and they deserve their spot in the F tier. It really should Imperial Agents should have their own tier at this point.
If you want, I will put them at F-, just so we break this up, because I lament the fact that GW it just seems like they are perfectly okay with doing nothing with this faction. They give them a codex and then do nothing with them. Why give them a codex? Why put hope in the hands of the player base? Why not just create an index like you did with Death Guard that lets these things run as a solo army? Why create this hope for people to be able to play this amalgam of things that they love and then give them like the barest, most meekest structure upon which to do so? It's very frustrating.
Not even an army rule. They didn't even give them an army rule. They don't have one.
Not an army rule. Nothing.
Nothing. So much potential too, because I love the idea of running just that assassin execution strike force, and it's just not. It doesn't have enough stuff. It doesn't.
Me too.
Can't do anything.
Like one of the favorite patch-ins that me and my mates used to have in 6th and 7th edition was to take the Inquisitorial Agents and add it to like any old Imperium list, or even some like fringe list. You can add it into Tau and things like that, and it'd give you wonky stuff like reroll to seize the initiative and stuff with Kodiaz and all sorts of fun stuff. You could just build little like tech pieces, patches into your army, and it was really fun. And we still kind of do that, but in a watered down state. But that's all that book is. That book is a bunch of tech pieces for other armies. It's annoying. All right.
It is.
What is in the true F tier, my dude? What's actually in the dumpster?
Oh man. So at the very bottom of F tier is Death Watch. So I did a bunch of average rankings for them. They are only 0.2 better in the average rankings across win rate, wins, top 4s, top 10s, and then overrep, which is the amount of top 4 placements compared to the number of them that are in the wild, essentially their population. Yep. And they have a 34% win rate, no event wins, no top 4s, no top 10s, no overrep. They are the worst faction that is not Imperial Agents currently, which is a little sad because I see people kind of jiving with it a little bit, and there seems to be power in that book. It just, when they got axed, it seems like a lot of people kind of abandoned the faction, and then when they brought them back, they didn't really come back.
No one returned. Everyone had found newer, fresher pastures on other factions and decided to leave it as thus. I mean, I say the same thing about Adeptus Sororitas, whereas, see, most people who play Adeptus Sororitas aren't, just Adeptus Sororitas players, so they're not there through apologies, thick and thin. And so when Sororitas took their, multifaceted, holistic nuke into the ground on Bringers of Flame, everyone abandoned them, found other things to play. And now Sisters, I think, are the best army no one's talking about, and no one's playing them because everyone's just like, I'm happy where I am. No need to jump back just yet, which is fair enough.
Yeah, and it's really like I will say, I think part of it is that some of the people who are playing the really top end sisters stuff aren't really talking about it very much at the moment, because WTC secrecy is real and true,
Real. Yeah,
and we'll
absolutely.
see some innovation post WTC. I think, and some of the lists I've seen thrown about until list release, basically today, are really interesting. We'll see how that goes.
Yep. And now you know when we're recording this, the lists have just gone live for the WTC. So I'm going to be recording a bunch of episodes on WTC Analytic as well, Ed. But yeah. All right. What is after Deathwatch in the FTR?
Adeptus Mechanicus. So Adeptus Mechanicus, man, GW has tried to revive this army multiple times and it's still on life support. They are ranked overall for average 22.6. They have 2 top 10s, but no top 4s or event wins. They've got a 46% win rate, so they're not like doing terribly. They just they're not destitute, but they cannot crawl themselves into placements. Well, they are.
I have such issues with AdMech in the meta because their book is not robust. Mm-hmm. It's fairly hollow. Any meta shift it can be catastrophic to the army, and this meta shift has been, in my opinion. The meta going to ultra thick Astartes equivalents. It's either Astartes equivalents or Knight equivalents is what you're fighting. That's a Mechanicus. It does not have the profiles to fight these things. In addition, the horde clear capabilities of the armies I just reeled off. You know, I'm talking about mostly T-Suns, Empress Children, and Death Guard is just kind of obnoxious when they get to be this fast and or durable, depending on which one it is. And so all these things are just horrific for AdMech. And I lament their position because GW has tried so hard, but then anytime they bring out a new book, it's just like a gut shot to AdMech.
At this point, I'm kind of the opinion that AdMech just needs like a 2.0 codex. Like that's what they just need. They just need a ground up rewrite. And hopefully they get it, like they get it either at some point in 10th or they get a new book early in 11th where GW has learned some lessons. Because we are, I guess, trending towards the end of the predictable cycle, I guess. But
yeah, well, we're T minus 11 months. Till this time next year we should be talking about 11th edition, pretty much. All right, what's after FTR?
So Dark Angels are next up. They are 20.6 if you average their rankings out. This is where we start to see top 4s again. So the 3 factions below this one have like no top 4 placements at all. Dark Angels have a 41% win rate. They have a top 4. They have 4 top 10s. So they do have an over-rep of 0.29, which is pretty bad. You see about a third of them. A third as much of them in the top 4s as you expect. I think that some of this is like whiplash for the faction a little bit. But it's not like they're bad. Their new detachment isn't amazing. Like Wrath of the Rock is kind of more of the same, it feels like, with just spam Deathwing Knights, hope that -1 damage, -1 wound can save you.
Yeah, correct. Are you just so anybody at home, I should have said this before. The order in which we put factions in this tier list is purely unsubjective. There is no opinion. This is purely based on stats. There is no ifs, no buts. And this is me relying on the stats garnered by the lovely team at StatCheck. And previous to this was the beautiful Peter the Falcon. And we do this completely dispassionately. The only subjective place is where we put the tiers, is where we put the breakpoints in the stats. Are we in D? Is Dark Angels in D tier or F tier?
I think Dark Angels are in D tier because I think this is where we start to see books that have like flaws. Some of them deep, which is probably what will happen with the faction we talk about after this one. But they have play and they have potential. Whereas AdMech, Deathwatch, and Imperial Agents kind of are just in the bin. Like totally in the bin.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, what is after? What is this next one you speak of?
We have Orcs. How the mighty have fallen from the last time we talked. With a 43% win rate, just a single top 4, 5 top 10s. They're just doing a little bit better than Dark Angels in all respects, essentially, and their average ranking across all of their stats is 19.6. So they're just doing slightly better than Dark Angels.
And I've been saying this a lot. No one is for the rest of this edition. Nobody can besmirch Orcs their complaints.
No.
I strongly believe we can tell every other person to, oh yeah, shut up, mate. I'm going to bring out my little violin in a minute. But Orc players just kind of get to complain. I think this edition. Okay,
I think
am I fair in saying they have been the most messed with faction? I call it they've been on the balance yo-yo of being they release a busted thing, they nuke the entire book. They released a busted thing, then they nuke the entire book. Then they released a busted thing, and then they nuke the entire book. It's happened in my mind 3 times this edition. On release of their codex with Bully Boys, on the release of Tactic Brigade, and on the release of Mordaka. And each time has resulted in not just the problem thing being nuked, but also all the peripheries and all the extended parts of that codex as well. I mean, why did they decide to nuke Never mind. I could go on for ages about how pissed off I am on behalf of Orc players, because I think it's really bad. Do you echo this sentiment, or am I overbearing?
No, I think you're right. We saw it right away from Codex release, right, with Bully Boys, when instead of kind of a more like scalpel kind of nerf being applied, they kind of nerfed the whole book a bit. And then we saw it again with Tactical a bit, and then we saw it even more so with Mordaka. Like Mordaka and Bully Boys were both problems, and I don't think anybody's going to say that they weren't, but it feels like instead of a scalpel, they kind of used a hammer in all 3 situations, and really messed up the internal balance of the book quite a bit.
And it doesn't make sense, because they've been quite good with balance in the rest of in everyone else's books. The entire look what Eldari just copped. Yeah, sure, they specifically killed Ynnari, but didn't destroy Eldari. Right. And I would say Ynnari, in some ways, was just as problematic as Tactical. It probably wasn't as busted as Mordaka or Bully Boys on release, but it was about on par with Tactical. And Tactical resulted in the whole shooting base of Orcs being completely destroyed and taken out of the back. Wild.
It's really kind of depressing, because now I don't know 100% where an Orc player kind of goes. I guess you can still play Warhorde and stuff like that, but you can't play the stuff that GW buffed, which is Speed Freaks. Because I don't think buggies can be moved. I don't think you can move 18 buggies if you bought that many buggies on.
They can't be deployed. If you take 18 buggies, there's tables you can't deploy on. Your base is that big. The terrain we play upon, let alone WTC boards, which would be horrific, let alone GW and LGT, being the other 2 staples. Those ones are already bad enough for Orcs, and for that kind of build. And then so you're back to playing Warhorde. They just nuked you. They deleted your entire codex, and you're back to the index. Is how I feel about Orcs. Over 3 rounds of nerfs, and that's just sad. All right, so what is next after D tier? Let's talk. Let's get happy.
I know it's weird, because Gene Stealer Cults would be in D tier, probably based solely on like where we're at, kind of numbers wise. But I think they're the faction that most deserved like a breakpoint into C tier or even higher than C tier, because the army is very good, but they do average across all those different stats. Like I said, an 18.8 for average ranking. They only have a single top 4, 3 top 10s, and a 0.68 for overrep. So they're not doing great. Because we're pretty early in this part of it, there's going to be a lot of factions without event wins, which is just normal. We're only a few weeks in. And the meta right now is kind of top heavy, as we'll talk about probably in a little bit when we get into like BA and beyond. I think we could put a break into C tier here, but some of the factions above it are in kind of weird spots.
So GSC, D tier or C tier? Your call.
I think C. I think Gene Stealer Cults don't have as many flaws, but they do require a very skilled pilot to kind of like do well
and
with.
Obviously, we are on part 2. What we're going to do is you and I are going to do another tier list, and this one will be freaking 100% subjective, where we do a team's tier list.
I like it.
We're gonna have fun with it. GSC in teams is a totally different beast.
100%. When you can pick your pilot and you can pick like what you're going into with GSC, that the army's unbeatable at that point.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. All right. So what is after GSC?
Black Templars are next. They are 18.4, so just slightly better than Gene Stealer Cult. They have a 45.16 win rate, a top 4, 3 top 10s, and a 0.79 for overrep. Their player population is a little smaller, so it kind of gets bumped up a little bit. Black Templar are kind of in a weird spot, though, it feels like, as Marine factions go.
Yep. They really are.
They like, I don't really know what to say about that faction currently. They got some points changes. They got like some adjustments in the most recent MFM.
I'm a little frustrated as a Black Templar player because I feel like I wonder what they're going to have to do in the Black Templars Codex to give Black Templars back some Black Templarness. Because as far as I can tell, Space Wolves have all of the Black Templar identity is in Space Wolves.
Yep.
All right, 20 mans. Oh, they got 20 mans. Oh, your 20 mans all have 3-up saves and all have advance and charge built in. Our 20 man has 8 idiots in it, and 8 scouts in it. Oh boy, that don't hit the crap. And then all the DACA and the super spicy. Oh, cool. We got a multi-melter on the front of ours. Well, you got a 9 priest. So you have the spicy little shooting X factor as well. And yeah, all those things. Yeah, it feels like I wonder what they're going to do to give Black Templars their identity back, because right now they feel like just the worst melee marines. The worst melee marines. Is that fair to say? Of the melee marine options.
I think so, especially with the Space Wolves Codex coming out soon.
That's my case in point. The Space Wolves Codex is just a better melee marine than Templars. Well,
Blood Angels are also better than them.
Oh yeah, Blood Angels better than both. So
yeah, like there's no argument that the Sanguinary Guard is one hell of a data sheet, pointed the way that it is currently.
Yeah, well, I'm also hopeful. I'm hopeful that Sword Brethren maintain as 10 mans. If they go down to 6, and you're like, well, they have to be really good, otherwise a Headhunter is better. And yeah, you get the idea.
Yeah.
All right, what is after the Templars?
So this is a faction that I don't think is going to stay here if we had like another couple weeks of data, or even this last week and this week of data. Chaos Knights are next. They have event wins, I believe, for this weekend, and I believe that they have event wins from last weekend. So
they do.
This is a faction that I think will move in a second, because I'm gonna cheat and I'm gonna put their event win in and see how it changes their positionality real quick.
Yeah, good call. Because I know they won one last weekend. I know they won one this weekend.
So so I'm gonna.
If you want.
I'm gonna sort these again. We're going to put 2 in here, actually, and we're going to resort this. Don't mind me, everybody. So instead of Chaos Knights, we're going to talk about a completely different faction. We're going to talk about Space Wolves. Space Wolves are...
It's so interesting. These are next to each other, Templars and Space Wolves. I just talked about this.
Yeah. Mm.
But these are...
pre-Codex.
Yeah, this is pre-Codex. Yeah. So I actually quite like this inclusion, because we'll get to see like exactly how the Codex does, because now we have. So I'm just going to quickly go up to where they were in the previous tier list. They were in A tier. They were the top of A tier in the previous tier list, because they had the Unga Bunga, maxed out Thunder Cab was actually doing very, very well in a bunch of events. Just like yo, I went first in the games where it mattered, and looks like I won. But Space Wolves, now in C tier, it makes sense.
Yeah. All right. After Space Wolves is Grey Knights, who have a really interesting disparity going on. So they have a win rate of about 50%. They have a top 4. They have 3 top 10s, and then they have a 0.57 for overrep. So they're just not. They've got a good win rate. Their overrep is kind of questionable. They have a ranking of 17 for average ranking, which is tied with the faction directly above them, essentially.
Grey Knights just do not have the profiles for the game at the moment. They are super thick themselves. Like, as in, like they are an elite army, and they're getting out-elited dramatically. In addition, all their things that are the super elite stuff, like the Dread Knights, just get absolutely squished by the things that people take to deal with the Knight meta and the Death Guard meta that we're in right now. So Grey Knights are just like, they're getting squished by the meta, in my opinion. Yeah,
not tough enough to be tough, and not weak enough to be non-elite and be spammable in large.
Exactly
numbers.
right.
So
correct.
Stuck.
Yeah, you're kind of stuck taking the stuff you're taking and just running the gauntlet.
Sisters are next. So Adeptus Sororitas are also at 17th for average ranking of stats. They are at a 49.59% win rate. They have 1 top 4, 4 top 10s, and a 0.62 because of their relatively low population. No faction except for Orcs, I think, has had like the most concussive departure from where they were at for a while, and then like they've slowly started to regain their player population, mostly off the back of very targeted undoing of nerfs.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right, you guys.
the only noticeable buff is that they did buff Champions of Faith. They legitimately buff Champions of Faith to try and make it work with transports and stuff like that, which did open up a bunch of play for that faction. And I think that faction's in a very good place. I think Sisters is actually exceptional. They're great into this meta as well, and I think they are. I'm just going to give them most underrated award.
I'd agree with that. I think this is where we break into
B tier.
B tier.
All right, let's
maybe
do it.
Drukhari. I want to ask you: do you think Drukhari is a C tier or a B tier army?
So I'm actually quite high on Drukhari at the moment. I actually think they're quite good in the game right now because they are fast enough to hang with the fast armies. They have enough OC to play for small losses or small wins versus things that are better than them with, playing non-committal games. And they have huge skilling. Like the generalship. They might be the army that demonstrates generalship more than anything else in the game at the moment. And so, yeah, I'd be very happy to hear that they're worthy of being in B tier. And if they are, we'll chuck them there.
Yeah, let's check them there. So they are just a little bit better than Sisters. They have 6 top 4s. No event wins still for them. But they have a 0.75 over-rep, so they're kind of getting into top 4s a lot more regularly than Sisters are.
Yep.
So I think that Drukhari are perhaps a little underrated as well. Like, that army does play Honest 40k very well, I think, is like the truest thing of it, is that army is everywhere and nowhere all at once. And that's a good thing to be when you are playing 40k, which is ostensibly an objective and secondary mission game, right?
Yep, it's true. I love that they're there. I think they have. I don't think they can skew effectively into any meta, but I think their all-comers lists has potential everywhere. And once again, they're a very faction I'm quite high on in teams also.
100%. I get that.
All right, next up.
All right. Astra Militarum, a faction that is, I think, chronically underrated
Me too.
in stats.
Me too.
Just chronically underrated. Astra Militarum are our first event winner to show up in the stats at this point. They have a single event win at this point, a couple top 4s, 9 top 10s. They have a 0.44 for overrep, though. Like, they don't make top 4 placements really well. That number is lower than every single faction before them, except for Orcs and Dark Angels. For overrep purposes. So there's a lot of people playing Astra Militarum and not doing super well. Their average ranking is a 15.6 across all the stats. This faction is good, and it's been nerfed several times in relatively targeted ways, which shows me that GW can do this properly, and it's just poor orcs who have been smushed.
Yes, correct.
But this army can still be played also a myriad of ways, right? Like, you can play tanks, which is probably the best version of it. I mean, we can talk about teams later. I think there's a different build that's probably more ideal for teams, but you can just spam hulls still and win games with Astra Militarum.
Yeah,
because people
correct.
have a hard time.
You can still
them.
spam hulls really effectively. And of all the targeted nerfs, they somehow just looking over, didn't notice the giant freaking Rogal Dawn Tank Commander, which for some reason they think is fine for the points. That's the only one I want nerfed, and I want everything else unnerfed because I think everything else is fine. And the Rogal Dawn Tank Commander is like just a huge freaking crutch for that whole faction.
Oh, 100%. I agree.
Yeah. All right. What is up next?
Tyranids actually are next.
Ooh,
so they don't have an event win, but they do have 11 top 10s, which is just a gigantic number. They have a 47% win rate, so they're doing respectable. A 0.49 for overrep, so they're not really getting top 4 placements, but they have a 15.4, so just sliding in slightly better across average rankings than Astra Militarum are. And honestly, I have never been more excited about Tyranids than with the new detachment they released. Sick. I have been playing that Subterranean Assault Tunnel Snakes detachment and having a blast with it.
Yeah.
It is officially the first time with that faction that I've been excited all edition as well.
That's awesome, dude. I mean, so many people do. Tyranids is such a beloved faction, and I see it's been a while since I felt Tyranids were an oppressive part of the meta. They definitely have had portions where they've, in previous editions, but have they been oppressive this edition? Have Tyranids had an oppressive, like, OP build this edition? I don't believe they have.
Think so. No, it's they've been pretty average all edition to kind of like a little bit below average. I don't think they've ever really been super amazing all edition.
Yeah. Whereas they definitely in 9th and 8th edition, they both had a top tier build at some point. They had the Kraken Stealer, double 20 Kraken Stealers in 8th edition, and in 9th edition they had the Monster Mash, Reaper Obliterax, BS crap. In 9th, absolute nonsense. So yeah, Tyranids, fair enough. Right in the middle of B, pretty good.
Yep.
We have a lot of factions to go still, though, so this is going to be a very thick B and A.
I think B is a pretty thick one, and then I think we'll have a question in about 2 spots where we put a faction, and then we'll have to keep going.
All right, what's next?
Blood Angels are next in B. They have a 49% win rate, 5 top 4s, which is a bunch, 9 top 10s, 0.78 for overrep, so they are closing those top 4s quite well, and they are at a 12.4 for average ranking across stats. Blood Angels are doing great. Blood Angels are feasting, I think, after points reductions a bit here in the B tier.
But what's their win rate percentage?
49%.
Yeah. This is why win rates ain't good, people. This is why win rates are not a good metric, because Blood Angels are freaking nuts. But the win rate is just off kilter because, of course, you can have a Blood Angels player playing literally nothing but Firstborn Marines with like Bile Preds and Death Company Dreadnoughts next to a guy playing 18 Death Company, min-max Sangard and all that nonsense. So I mean 18 Blade Guard, but yeah.
Yep.
And those two guys can be like just standing next to each other. So this is what makes win rates weird and why it's better off us just focusing on overrep. And sorry, we should have said overrep is just the representation of an army in the top bracket. So you want to explain that?
Yeah, so overrep is essentially a ratio. I mentioned it very briefly before, but I think we should talk about it a little bit more. So overrep is the stat that we use most over a stat check for a lot of stuff. So it essentially takes the top 4 placements, the number of top 4 placements that an army has, as a percentage, and then relates it to the overall meta representation of that faction. So how many people are actually playing it, and essentially creates a ratio of it. So if somebody made up 4% of the meta, say Space Marines did, and they made up 4% of top 4s, then they would have an overrep of 1, and that would be perfect. If they made up 8% of top 4s, which would be bad, they'd have an overrep of 2. Or if they had a 2% of top 4 placements, they'd have an overrep of 0.5. Usually what we look at is anything over a 1.25 is where things are kind of a problem, and anything under a 0.75 is where there's a problem. And that is when you start to get into problematic overreps, and we'll start getting into those. We're starting to get close to the 1s now, and we're going to start getting over 1 in several situations coming up. So we'll have some interesting chats to have, I think.
Fair. All right, well, let's go. What's after Blood Angels?
Space Marines, just regular, old, generic, Ultramarines, basically. Let's be honest. 46.
Yeah, Ultramarines, Gladius / Stormlance. That is exactly everything.
Yep. So their win rate is a little bit less than Blood Angels. They have a 46.74. They have a single event win, which kind of pumps them up a little bit. They have 4 top 4s and 11 top 10s and a 0.83 overrep. So closing out top 4s pretty well for generic Space Marines, giving them an average ranking of 12.
Nice. There you go. Very nice.
I think Space Marines deserve to be in B tier. I think that's where they should be. I think that's a good spot.
I agree. So this next one is the one where you don't know if it's a B or an A?
I think it's an A, but I want to ask you. So the next one is actually Emperor's Children.
Ooh. So this is an interesting one because I think the meta has done a significant 180 on Emperor's Children. Because when they were feasting so good into the Eldari Yunari meta, they were S tier. They were the silver bullet to Eldari, and now they are the glass cannon that's already half broken into Death Guard and Knights. They have very real struggles at the top of the meta. I'm actually kind of happy to put them in B tier, to be honest.
I think that's fair. I think that's reasonable.
Tell us the stats
kind of match. So they have a 48% win rate. They do have an event win. They have 4 top 4s. They have 6 top 10s. So they have a 1.33 for overrep, which is kind of eye-watering.
Damn.
But they're not doing great in win rate. They're tied with a bunch of factions with a single event win, and their top 4s and top 10s aren't like doing anybody any good. And I think
the overrep is serious.
Their overrep is serious, though. That overrep is top 5. That's a top 5 overrep.
Wow. Okay. So that's showing. Usually, when you see overrep like that versus a very a relatively, weak rest of the stats, you'd kind of just say, are there 1 or 2 absolute juggernaut murderer savants using Emperor's children that are going the distance and doing crazy stuff?
Probably. So you could say that, or there's like maybe some polarity kind of in the stats a little bit, where
Okay.
win rate can be kind of weak in some situations.
Yeah.
Especially when you're looking at relatively small data sets like what we're looking at right now. We're looking at not a ton of data, which is fine. But we're making some ad hoc judgments using a lot of average stats. So hopefully that will help us out a little bit. But the overrep usually just means that factions are getting into top fours pretty well relative to their overall population. That might mean that there are just a few people who are just murdering everybody, like you said. And they're doing it really effectively. And I think that's good.
Okay, let's do a quick recap before we hit the A tier. So previously, from F tier to C tier, we had 7 factions. That's in F tier and D tier. We only have 5 now, which is Imperial Agents still, Deathwatch, Adeptus Mechanicus, Dark Angels, and Orcs. And then our C tier now consists of Genestealer Cults, Black Templar, Space Wolves, Grey Knights, and Adeptus Sororitas, with the B tier being Drukhari, Astra Militarum, Tyranids, Blood Angels, Adeptus Astartes, and Emperor's Children. All right, let's kick it off with the top of the pile. What's at the bottom of A?
This is going to make people real mad on the internet.
Good.
Tau is at the bottom of A. I don't know how this happened, but Tau are at the bottom of A. They have a 51.5% win rate. They have an event win. They have 4 top 4s. They have 8 top 10s. They have a 1.04 overrep. They're basically in the top 10 for win rate, event wins, top 4s, and for overrep. It averages out that they have a 9.6 across their rankings. So it's interesting because a lot of Tau players complain quite regularly, and I don't think the faction is especially strong right now in a lot of ways. But they seem to be doing okay.
Well, I don't mind them in this meta. They are one of the biggest breakpoint beneficiaries of the toughness reduction on Imperial and Chaos Knights, because they wield a bunch. It's really weird that they don't have a lot of, like, essentially it's what, Skyrays and Hammerheads hitting above strength 10 or more. But apart from that, they are they're living between the strength 5 and strength 9 bracket. But man, Little Knights coming down to strength 9, then they're getting a bunch more access to lethals if they want to go that way, is pretty cute as well. And they have pretty good Astartes killing profiles as well if they lean into them. So I like their position in the meta for the units that they have and that they want to take. But yeah, I don't see why they complain. I think they're kind of fine right now.
Yeah. Next up is Chaos Space Marines. So Chaos Space Marines have a 50.37% win rate. They have a couple of event wins, as we'll start seeing multiple event wins start to crop up. 4 top 4s, 5 top 10s, and a 1.19 for overrep, with an average ranking of 9.2 across their stats. They're really just dragged down by their number of top 10s. That's it. That's all they're dragged down by.
So interestingly, what detachments are you seeing for Chaos Space Marines performing?
Let me grab the metadata dashboard up real quick.
So
all of 5 seconds.
Naturally, last time we did this tier list, it would have been the time about when everyone was talking about, Noise Marines and Renegade Raiders are going to be busted. They're going to be just better. Gladius busted, yada yada yada, blah blah blah. That has like 100% not materialized. Like we the community were really off the mark in thinking that was going to be a thing. So I'm really curious to know what has been performing. I know Bile is still kicking around, doing quite well, despite it having some bad matchups at the top of the pile. But yeah.
So it is actually still Renegade Raiders doing really well. They have a 57% win rate when we look at detachments. They also have one of the event wins for the faction. Pact Bound Zealots has the other one.
The other. Yep. That makes sense.
And then Creations of Bile is in third, and then it's everything else after that is a 40 or below % win rate. Most of the people doing well are playing Renegade Raiders or Pact Bound Zealots, which I think makes sense. Renegade Raiders is pretty straightforward, especially if they let you take the Noise Marine chassis, right?
Or even rubrics and Plague Marines. I've heard thrown around as options that are actually legitimate. All right, what is after CSM?
So this is where I would plant Chaos Knights based on their stats. So Chaos Knights kind of go here. I think this actually might be an underplacement still. I think in a couple weeks, Chaos Knights are going to go even further.
Well, see, I actually would not be surprised if the opposite happens and they actually get knocked down, because Chaos Knights are like everyone adjusting their list by 500 points away from getting pushed out, in my opinion. there's no army in the meta at the moment that is easier to meta for than Chaos Knights, in my opinion.
Yeah. They do have their couple of event wins. They do have some top 4s, and they have 7 top 10s. So they're just doing slightly better than Chaos Space Marines, essentially, on every front. That just kind of materializes there.
Interesting. I'm going to put the one to watch award on Chaos Knights.
I like it. The next one is kind of funny to me because it's kind of entirely based off of one stat. And we'll see how people like this. Well, maybe 2. Adeptus Custodes are kind of next.
I was really like curious. I was expecting them around like the top of C, bottom of B. So having them in the middle of A is wild. Tell me more.
So they have a 53% win rate, which is quite good. That's 6th for win rate overall. They don't have any event wins, which makes them tied with a bunch of factions, essentially. So that drags them down to it. They have 4 top 4s and they have 15 top 10s.
Jesus.
And if you remove top 10s as a statistic, then it probably drops them quite considerably. But they are in a lot of top 10s. And they have a 0.9 for overrep, which is respectable. So, I mean, honestly, their one to watch probably fall in a different direction and probably would be in a different spot in tier lists otherwise.
Okay.
But they're at 9th for ranked average. But
so
if you want to take Adeptus Custodes to an event and want to do like reasonably well, I think you will do reasonably well with Custodes.
So previously they were like second from the top of B tier, and they had the biggest club award, which was the biggest win rate, lowest overrep. And it doesn't sound like they're getting that again because it sounds like their overrep is massive.
Yep, it's respectable. I think honestly, I still think they're the biggest club, but only because they can't win an event to save their lives.
Yeah. Well, once again, they're doing a little bit better off than Grey Knights, but for the same reasons as Grey Knights, I don't rate them in the meta at the moment because I just feel like they can't hang with the top armies, and then everybody metaing for the top armies kind of just has a good game into Custodes. But yet I'm proven wrong because they're bang right in the middle of A tier. So I'll eat my words.
Yep. And then I think A tier is going to be huge. So we have, I think, 4 more factions in A tier, maybe 5, and then we'll go into S tier after that, I think.
All right, let's do it.
So next up is Leagues of Votann. They are number 1 in win rate. They have a 57.3% win rate, which is an eye-watering win rate.
That's wild.
They have an event win. They have 3 top 4s. They have 8 top 10s and a 1.48 overrep. So they are doing really good in a couple of places, especially in a given population. That may all be Germany speaking, though.
It
is.
Maybe
the entirety of Germany talking to us.
Correct. I was about to say, literally, just Germany just has no answers for Votann, and there's like 2 guys in Germany destroying everybody.
Yep. And honestly, I don't think Votann are bad. Votann have a bunch of guns that are going to be great into this meta in particular, and are great into elite armies, right?
In fact, I have been saying that I think Votann's the best gunline in the game at the moment. If you were for the pure gunline armies, I don't technically count like Ultramarines Gladius as a gunline per se. It's a bit more of an all-rounder, despite some variants having triple ballistas, triple Vindy, which you would say is a gunline. But Votann, like for my mind, is the best gunline in the game because all their profiles are jacked, and freaking Oath Token just make all the night matchups a doddle. So I'm absolutely down with them being here, and I'm happy. Like, where were they previously? They were C tier previously. Now they're like towards the top of A. They might, that's wild.
Next up is Eldari. Everybody thought after their nerfs, I think that they would fall a considerably larger distance, but they are right here in A tier still. They have a 50% win rate, perfectly balanced. 2 event wins, 4 top 4s, 14 top 10s, and a 1.02 overrep. They are perfectly balanced in every way. I don't care that they're at the top of A tier. It's not often you get a faction perfectly at 50% and almost perfectly at 1 for overrep.
Are you going to give them that award? Perfectly balances all things should be?
Yes, perfectly balances all things could be because they are only 0.2 away from it on overrep and somehow are at the top of A tier. I think that says some other things about the balance situation that we'll talk about maybe at a different date.
Yes, fair. We still have, notably, 5 factions, and all of them are new factions that came out in the last freaking 6 weeks.
Yep, and I think at least one of these is going to make people upset. One of them I think is just funny because, and then the next one, Necrons are never leaving A tier.
No.
They're here. They are ensconced permanently at the top of the game. Doesn't matter if GW nerfs them. It doesn't matter if GW gives them weird off-cycle buffs for some reason. They're just always going to be here. They have a 54% win rate. They have some event win. They have an event win. They have a bunch of top fours. They have a bunch of top 10s at 14 and a 0.97 for overrep. So they're doing great. They are 7.6, just slightly above Eldari.
I'm giving them the please F off award.
Yeah, please F off. They're not going to, though. They're just going to reanimate behind us again.
Yeah.
I'm sure somebody will make that meme just for the two of us. It's just popping up behind us.
Can they? It's so frustrating. Their existence is frustrating. I guess that's the point. That's the rule set they've been given.
Correct.
That their existence is frustrating. All right. I want to talk about Necrons and not at all. What's next?
I think this is where A tier ends, is at World Eaters. 49.38% win rate, 2 event wins, 6 top 4s, 13 top 10s, a 1.11 overrep.
Nice.
They're doing fine. I think this changes, though, given the FAQ that they just received.
Go on.
I think the FAQ clarifying how Overwatch works for Forge Fiends changes how this works a bit. And then also the changes to the Demonkin detachment changes this a bit.
Yeah. So could very well knock them down a little bit. I still have a lot of high hopes. And I just want to say, ha, 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 ha. I was right. World Eaters players. Yes, the book is fine. The book is actually good. Sure, it pissed all of you off on release, but then you all got over yourselves and you went and you smashed face anyway. So hopefully you're all happy now.
I don't think they're happy still. I think they're still unhappy.
Yeah. They can't play their anger on anymore. That's the only reason they played World Eaters, right?
It's true. This is this is a funny world that we live in. As I think that the Demonkin detachment was just phenomenally good. I don't know if people never played against it, or they just didn't want to buy demons or something. Because like being able to teleport 10 bloodletters an inch away basically from your opponent and then just slamming them into your opponent, or stealing primary with them, just stealing your opponent's primary repeatedly forever is a vibe.
Yep. I had some qualms about that detachment. I thought it was, at a lot of times, it was a bit of a win more. Like, it was like, cool, the players that are going to get caught out by this are players that I could probably, deal with anyway, with like a Berserker Warband and just going at them. And so, from what I heard was it was a bit of a skill check for the opponent. If the opponent could think their way through the problems of, when I kill a unit, it could become bloodletters anywhere and not get got by that, they tend to do okay. But I did hear of some quite a few feel bad moments where people who didn't know that it could do that were just like, oh my God, I lost. There, wild. So S tier, I think we've got 3 people in S tier, and the order's going to be very interesting. 4, okay.
4, yeah.
Take
so
it from
there's
the
a
bottom.
jump between A and S tier of about 3 ranking points on average.
Damn.
Almost 4. Chaos Demons are the first in S tier, I think, at a 52% win rate. They have 3 event wins, 7 top 4s, 15 top 10s, and a 1.59 for overrep.
Okay.
They are 7th in win rate, 2nd in event wins, 4th in top 4s, 3rd in top 10s, and 3rd in overrep. And they have a 3.8 ranking in average, which is almost 4 above World Eaters, who had a 7.4 average ranking.
Wild. Wow. I've been waiting to see a bit of a drop off for demons for, I suppose, the last couple of months. I've been waiting for demons to kind of drop off because, once again, I don't feel like they are phenomenally good into the meta at the moment, and yet I'm wrong, and I'm happy to hear. Very happy to hear.
It will be interesting, I think, to see how they do. I think Imperial Knights might have their number a little bit, especially with some of the changes that have happened to points and how many more big knights you might have to punch your way through.
Well, I was the opinion that, like, well, all the ones that are going to be above them is the ones that I'm worried about. So Imperial Knights, Death Guard, T-Suns, I thought just make a mockery of demons in this game at the moment. Well, the demons that are getting taken, I don't know if there's a meta pivot that makes them a little bit better there. But they were third best in A tier on our previous tier list, and now they've actually freaking moved up. That is incredible. I'm super impressed.
And people have woken up and have started to take a lot more incursion, I think.
Yeah, they have. Yeah.
Which is good. I think Incursion is amazing. I don't think Shadow
How-
Legion is bad before somebody slides into my DMs getting mad at me about that.
No.
It's just
But
that
how funny they released 4 new detachments, one of them being problematic, immediately nuke that one, buff this scintillating legion a little bit, and no one cared. No one cared.
Nobody
one diddly
cares.
squat. We played Slanesh while it was busted, and as soon as it wasn't busted, we all just moved on. And then it was Shadow Legion until that got nerfed, and everyone's back on Incursion. Incursion has always been good, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's been good as long as I can remember, basically. People have been telling me that Incursion is good with big boys. I don't think it will change anytime soon.
Nope.
All
right. What is next? Is it T-Sun's Death Guard or Imperial Knights?
It's Death Guard. So Death Guard have all these win rates are very close together, so we're going to see some stuff. Death Guard have a 55.5% essentially with 5 event wins, which is the most of any faction, 9 top 4s, 28 top 10s, and a 1.2 over rep.
28 top 10s is buck wild, but they have huge representation in the meta game, right?
Yeah, it's gigantic.
Yeah.
They may be third, but I think they are the biggest problem currently in existence for the meta, aside from perhaps the number 1 place faction, which we'll talk about in a second. I think that Death Guard are just a problem. And
so that means T-Suns is next, right?
Yep, T-Suns is next. They're 55.7, 2 event wins, 10 top 4s, 15 top 10s, and a 1.8 over rep. Just we're getting up to some eye-watering over rep numbers now. That is madness. Just straight up madness to start seeing a 1.8.
Yeah. 1.8 is what so we were talking about 1.2, 1.3 being towards the problematic levels of overrep. When I've done other stats episodes. What's your break point for this is worth looking at balance wise?
Anything over 1.2 is essentially where I think there's there is a problem of some kind, and it needs to be examined because like sometimes populations are just really low. But anything over 1.5 is bad. Like that's just outright something that needs to be fixed. And anything over 2 is something that requires an emergency patch.
Correct. I'm actually of the opinion 1.8 is you probably just emergency patch just because 1.8 is pretty much 2. It's pretty much 2.
It's basically there. It's just there. I don't think there are bad Thousand Suns builds in existence, and there's been some bad event FAQs about Thousand Suns. But Thousand Suns is an amazing damage army. People they can protect all their assets. It was very funny watching people when I was watching games be like, oh, all those things, those units of Enlightened and led by that Exalted Sorcerer have 18-inch loadout. Dang. That's bad for me and my desire to try to shoot them or interact with them at all because they also have a reactive move.
Well, I'm kind of the opinion though that Death Guard and Thousand Suns, actually, and Imperial Knights when we get to them are all pretty fixable via points changes. So Death Guard has 2 data sheets that I think desperately need points increases. That being the Heavy Blight Launcher, Blow Drones, and you can either hit the Lords of Contagion or you can hit the Death Shroud. I don't think it matters. You can go either. Maybe a little bit on both. T-Suns are freaking the price on Zangor Enlightened just shows how many they had in the warehouse because they're holy moly, they are cheap for their points. They are wild. And once again, though, it comes back to the characters. If you just do a decent hit on a couple of the best T-Suns characters, that thing just starts balancing itself. Anyway, continue, sir.
All right. Yeah, my line for this situation has always been that Death Guard have Custodes profiles and don't pay Custodes points for them.
No, they pay Astartes points. They pay Astartes points on Custodes profiles. So you're exactly right.
Yeah, Thousand Suns pay about 10 to 15% too little for the damage output that they do, basically, while it's still being modestly survivable. Imperial Knights are our number 1 faction, which is the funniest thing to say in the world. We haven't seen Imperial Knights at the top of things since the beginning of 10th edition. For this edition, at least. In 8th edition, they also had that Loyal 32 build and stuff like that, but that was a different time. Imperial Knights have a 55.5% win rate. They have 2 event wins in this data set, but they got 2 more last week, and I think they're on the way to more this weekend as well. They have 12 top 4s, 21 top 10s, a 2.45 over rep.
Wow, 2.45.
2.45, and it's only going to be worse because in the last week's data set, they have a 3.48 over rep.
Jesus. So just so everybody knows, we talked about
or 2.54 still. So
just to reiterate, a 1.2 or 1.3 is okay. This probably needs some adjustments. It's probably a little too good. A 2 on overrep is holy moly, this is getting towards hurting the life of the game and the enjoyment of people because this is such an issue. And what did you say? 3 point what, huh?
So they're actually at a 2 point. They're at a 2.54. I looked at the Gene Stealer Colt number at first by accident.
2.54.
Yeah, 2.5, which is still bad.
No. So they're
crazy
almost
numbers.
So they're almost 0.5 ahead of what would need an emergency patch, in our opinion, for the health of the game. Wow.
Yep.
Who thought this was okay?
I was talking to people recently, and they were like, well, what change would you make? I was like, I would just revert back to the original index. I'd just be like, you know what? We made a mistake.
Yeah, delete
Imperial Knights were already doing great. We're just going to revert to having Knights have their profiles that they were at before and the points they were at before.
And just wait for the codex.
Just wait for the codex. You didn't need to do this.
Yeah.
A bunch of people are like, well, but Nathan, it would be confusing because some Knights would be T10 and some Knights would be T9. I'm like, guys, we have survived with the ability to tell a Death Guard from a Thousand Sun from a World Leader.
Correct.
You've done okay telling a Dark Angel from a Blood Angel. You guys will be okay. You'll figure it out.
It's not a thing. Doth it have spike? It is 11.
Yeah.
Is it a smooth boy? It is 12.
I confuse people with my loyalist themed Chaos Knights who are Wissawig for Chaos Knights, but also magnetized to be loyalist Knights. In which case, you just need to ask the person across from you if they are loyalist.
Good communication.
Chaos Knights. You might need to talk to your opponent, folks. Just a little.
Okay, so Knights need an award. Is that so what's the highest overrep we've had this edition?
Probably Eldari at one point.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that it is Knights. The highest we've ever had is like 6, which was last edition with
that was Light Harlequins. Yeah,
that was Light Harlequins.
That was dumb.
Yeah, that was dumb is putting it lightly. That was at one point where they flirted with an 80% win rate, which is just nonsense.
Yeah. All right, but I'm going to give you guys the recap, and then we're going to give some awards. So, outside of our tier list now, for the sheer, we're putting this stamp upon it because I want Imperial Agents to be a real boy and to have real rules and a player base that can enjoy themselves. Imperial Agents are below F tier. And then in F tier, we have Death Watch and Adeptus Mechanicus. In D tier, we have Dark Angels and Orcs, and Orcs have been given the most messed with faction award. Or actually, I could give him the Yo-Yo Award. Let's give him the
Yo-Yo Award. It's a good one. I like it.
Yo-Yo Award. We then have in C tier, we have Gene Stealer Cults, Black Templars, Space Wolves, Grey Knights, and Adeptus Sororitas, which we have given the most underrated award. B tier, we have Drukhari, Astra Militarum, Tyranids, Blood Angels, Adeptus Astartes, and Emperor's Children. In A tier, we have Tau Empire, Chaos Space Marines, Chaos Knights, the One to Watch Award, and then we have Adeptus Custodes. Votan, we have the highest win rate award. That's correct, yeah?
Yep, they are the highest win rate faction.
We have Eldari with the Perfectly Balanced Award, and we have Necrons with the Please F Off Award. And then we have World Eaters at the top of A tier. Then in S tier, Chaos Demons, Death Guard, Thousand Suns, and Imperial Knights. Now we have another couple of awards to give out. So, of course, the winners of the Lion and the Wolf Award, of course, is going to Space Wolves, unfortunately. But that's only by one. It's only by one tier. Only by one tier. Fine. It's fine. I'll live.
It's fine.
Look how they massacred my boy award. Who do we give that to?
Oh man, it's Orcs. Orcs get 2 awards. They do.
Okay.
Look how they massacred my boy also goes to Orcs because they have been well and truly and profoundly messed up.
Fair. The next one is Furthest Fallen. So which was the highest ranked army in the previous one that's fallen the most, fallen the furthest? So Space Wolves were the top of A tier. Yeah, but I feel like I can't give it to them with their codex about to come out in the meta.
That's fair.
Gene Stealer Cults was the top of B tier previously, and now they're the bottom of C tier. So it might be them.
It might be Gene Stealer Colts, which is funny because I don't think Gene Stealer Colts are even slightly a bad faction. They did.
No,
they also did well this last weekend, so they'll be okay.
So for the furthest fallen, we're going to go for GSC. Now we have the furthest risen. So Tau went from the second best in D tier to the bottom of A tier. We also had World Eaters go from second worst in B tier to the top to the first in A tier. Custodies even went up. Tyranids also they were in the middle of C tier, and Votan was below them in the bottom of C tier and is now in the middle of A tier. So I think might be Votan.
I think it is Votan by those metrics. Yeah.
Highest raised award. And do you want to make one up for me and give it to a faction of your desire and stamp a bit of your personality on this one?
Oh man, I just want to give Imperial Knights the Towering Over the Meta award for whoever has the highest over rep gets Towering Over the Meta as their award, and it will be Imperial Knights for this time.
So it is a highest over rep. Now we do need to give out the biggest club, which is the biggest win rate, lowest over rep. So what is that in the game? So
biggest win rate, lowest over rep is Grey Knights, I think, because they have a 0.57 and a 50.69. Yeah, I think it is in fact Grey Knights. Because
there you go. Lovely. Should we give one to Custodies for doing well despite the meta?
How do you give somebody a top 10 award participation trophy?
Top 10 participation trophy. That's it.
Poor Custodies players are going to be even extra sad about that now.
No, most of them are pretty aware. They know where they're at.
This is true. That's fair.
All right, so we have so many awards now. I love it. So just to read them off. So Orcs got the Yo-Yo Award and the Look How They Massacred Our Boy Award. Gene Stealer Colts got the Furthest Fallen. Space Wolves got the winner of the Lion and the Wolf. Grey Knights got the biggest club, which is, of course, like I said, the biggest win rate and lowest over rep. Adeptus Sororitas got the most underrated award. So most underrated award. Then we have Chaos Knights with the one to watch. Adeptus Custodians with the top 10 participation award. Votan with the highest win rate award and also the highest raised award. So they shot up the tier list. Aldai with the perfectly balanced, Necrons with the please F off, and then Imperial Knights with towering over the meta. And that is it for this episode and your tier list, everybody. Wow, things are looking very wonky out there, and it's pretty good though. Pretty good, mate. What are your overall thoughts on the game, state of the game at the moment?
I think we have some problem children who could use some leveling, but I think otherwise, I will say this about the meta situation. If you just looked at it by win rate, which is, I think, part of what GW considers when they do balance, the highest win rated faction is just slightly outside of the 55 to 45% window. And you only have them outside, like only them and then the 3 problem children outside of it. And it's really tight. 57 is the highest win rate. We do have some children who are outside of it with the lowest win rate being 34 and 20%. But for the most part, everybody else is kind of in or right next to that window, which is kind of good. The data is still small. We'll see it kind of start leveling out, I think, a little bit, or we'll see it get dramatically worse, depending on kind of what kind of ends up happening with Imperial Knights. But I think the meta is in like orange alert right now, where it has clear problems, but maybe can be fixed easily.
Yeah, we will see. And with the WTC meta literally burgeoning right now and being disseminated as we speak, it will become clear whether there have been identified silver bullets for some of these top meta armies. I'm really interested to see if anybody's got a pin for Death Guard. That's the thing I'm most excited to find out if it has been discovered. But dude, on that note, we are out of here. We're going to go over and record part 2, which and my part 2 is going to be a little on the shorter end for the next couple of weeks while I'm trying to get things in the pipe. So expect them to be more about the 30 to 40 minute mark. And of course, now that I've said that, we're probably going to do an hour and a half. But Nathan, I'll see you on the other side. Come and join us. Go check out some stat check goodness. It's going to be a great couple of weeks on stat check in the lead up to the WTC. And hopefully you'll come and join us over on Patreon at Art of War Down Under. Nathan, love you, brother. Thanks for your help. Appreciate you deeply.
Always, bud.